trying to
okay, let's play some damn shit.
Not real. As a matter of fact, I was speaking to Mike Sullivan
from China
yesterday about this exact same topic.
Street
whore. Telling me that I never was truly converted, and we know Mike Sullivan is a voice in the full preterist movement. He debated Michael Brown. And I
suck my slut.
So you're going to pass judgment on me when I was a 5-year-old little boy in Sunday school, and you're going to try to say that I didn't love Jesus when I was a kid?
Suck my motherfucking slut.
You would have to say that, somebody who's born and raised in church. You would have to say that as a little baby, that person was
you suck my dick, bitch.
Genuine in their faith with Christ.
Well, that's by the way, that always happens.
My
it's not
dick,
just a religious phenomenon.
You suck my
motherfucking
dick.
You'll find it even in politics. You'll find it in like anything. In fact, Professor Dave, big YouTube channel, just did a thing on flat earthers, and they literally flew $35,000 or $40,000 to fly 4 flat earthers, each paid. Each $35,000 to fly them to Antarctica and watch the 24-hour sun with their own effing eyes and be persuaded, because they all said, based on the flat earth model, the pizza pie kind of earth model, that it can't be 24 hours.
Suck my fucking
I'm making a detour to make a point here. This is not just Christianity, even though it attaches. Flat earth is attached to this. They finally get the evidence. I think 2 of them are coming out saying they're no longer flat earth. But everyone called them shills. They don't accept it. They were never truly flat earthers. They were really globe conspiracists. Like, it is something that always will happen, bro. So we will never persuade people with our words or experience unless we become Christian again and stay that way until we die. They will not accept it. That's just how oblivious to facts and obvious truthfulness we're trying to portray. It doesn't matter. And even if they say, I believe you're sincere, but you still don't have the Spirit. He comes from a Reformed camp, so that's a whole other thing, saying you're not elect anyway, because God's the one who has to cause you that and stuff. So,
bitch, you suck my mother. Now fuck up and put my goddamn king in church.
Yeah, you have to do that. No,
you suck my motherfucking dick, bitch.
Special pleading is what it is.
You suck my dick, bitch.
You know,
stupid!
It's simply not
stupid
machine. Other religions that have very similar experiences.
Oh, I was fixing to ear his
As a matter
I'm
of
cutting
fact,
off his right
I'd
ear.
like to bring up
cutting off his right motherfucking ear. What a dumbass.
Andrew Newberg, who is a leading neuroscientist, a Jewish leading neuroscientist on religious experiences, and he studied all other religious experiences, and you'll find the same exact empirical data, the same exact symptoms that touches the nervous system, that enters into neurological properties of the brain. So within Pentecostalism, this charismatic movement,
suck my motherfucking dick.
Experiences are foundational to our faith, especially when we're reading the Bible. You're reading the book of Acts, you're reading 1 Corinthians 12, the gifts of the Spirit, 1 Corinthians 13, 1 Corinthians 14, speaking in tongues. This phenomena is something that is so very profound. There's over 300 million tongue talkers within Christianity. This key word, experience, and I think I know where we're going with this, and I hope we can touch on it.
Yeah, we will. By the way, you're glitching. You're glitching in and out. Somebody, how about I got a shiba? We need to get rid of this demon right now. Speak in tongues. Come on, Tristan. We got to speak in tongues to get rid of this demon, bro. Come on, how about shiba? I'm totally joking. I'm blaspheming to some people right now.
You suck my motherfucking
Tristan, are you there?
Dick.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, it's coming in and out. Just keep that in mind. If I need you to repeat, forgive me. I might go repeat that sentence because, dude, everything you're saying is so powerful and it's important what you're describing. Let's not sidetrack from your story into these experiences yet, because we can get into more of the facts and the things you learned along the way.
Suck my motherfucking
dude,
dick.
You're on fire for Jesus. Mama's love brought you back. You're the prodigal son. Your story, you're probably speaking at church. People are probably listening to this. You're giving testimony. I know for a fact that experience from someone who was a drug addict who struggled and got back and then fell out and went to the pigsty and realized that he was better at home and the whole nine.
You suck my
Where are you at now?
Dick.
You're in the church. You're devout. You're in your 1920s. You're going into your 20s. What's happening in church, man? Are you moving up the ranks? You're going to college? You're going to do this for Jesus all the way? Talk to us.
All the way. My mindset, Derek, was we're in the last days. We need to give it our all. Soul winning, evangelism, out on the streets, knocking on doors. That was my heartbeat.
He just dicked up a fucking hole. You suck my motherfucking
bringing them
dick.
into the house of God.
Stupid, you stupid
attending Bible
motherfucker.
school, having to wear a suit and tie at 7 a.m. in the morning. Doing a whole entire Bible course on just one book.
You suck my motherfucking
4 years of
dick,
Bible
bitch.
college. I was in various ministries, like I mentioned before. Juvenile ministry is where I started doing before I hit the prisons as I got older. But I was involved in the youth group. I was involved in outreach. I mean, you name it.
God damn it.
I was involved in it. Gave my entire life over. And I actually believe that God
you suck my mother.
celibacy.
God damn it, I fucked up.
Somebody who was,
Holy goddamn ghost.
just like many other Christians. And so I didn't want to even give my life over in a relationship because I truly believe, Derek, that we were in the last days, that we were the rapture.
You stupid bitch.
And that it could happen at
stupid
So
stupid
once
machine.
I graduated Bible college, so many doors opened up.
Stupid motherfucker.
During the summer, our Bible college had a summer
Okay, get ready to kiss that
where
motherfucking
our
whore
Bible
goodbye.
college would rent out a car. It was me and 2 other young preachers. And we would go all throughout the United States.
You suck my
and preaching in
motherfucking
churches,
dick,
promoting
bitch.
the Bible college. And man, we were making a lot of money. I mean, we made $2,000 off of one service. And when you're 24 years old and you just preached a message that you've, preached something similar before, $2,000, these pastors are just giving it
out. Stupid
Southern
motherfucker.
California, all throughout.
Man, you're
Michigan,
a stupid son of a bitch.
I've been in New
Can't
York,
you play chess with?
So this was something that was happening.
Can't you play chess with a good goddamn?
It was a beautiful life, I look back and I say, even though I'm not a Christian today, I had some great experiences. I had some good times. I made some good friends, some good times.
You son of a bitch.
And I appreciate that.
So before you get to not being a Christian, you're traveling, you're on fire.
No, I ain't talking Joseph Stalin. I'm talking about Stalin.
Like the tug of war that you must have experienced in your real experiences versus this virtuous ideal that you think you're going to be able to try and achieve. That's probably another thing. It's very personal to get into sexual stuff, but I think it's almost necessary sometimes to mention.
Absolutely.
That I can tell you this, I am not meant for celibacy. Okay? I am 100% not meant for it. I tried as a Christian, not for celibacy. I tried to just restrain from any, masturbation, any of that. I tried not to do that because that's sinful. And then the well-known mythical story in Judah, your seed on the earth, God might strike you dead kind of thing.
Suck my dick.
That was such a struggle. What made you think celibacy? I have to ask before we move forward. What made you think the rest of my freaking life?
Suck my motherfucking
How did you come to this idea?
I mean, I'm telling you, when you're a minister in a mega church, I mean, you do have females who are attracted to you as a speaker, as a minister, as a man of God. I've had plenty of opportunities to be married. Now, I did have feelings for women. I did have crushes.
My motherfucking dick,
bitch. Sacrifice that I would give to God. I tell you how you were talking about the spirit of lust.
Now fuck up and over this so I can stick my dick in your fucking nice butt.
Natural within us.
Stupid motherfucker.
Fasting. I mean, when I was in my
suck my motherfucking dick.
Fasting 2 or 3 days out of the week, going on an extended fast, water fast for 21 days. I reached 21 days. I wanted to reach 40 like Jesus, but I took a leave of absence for my job. I was a waiter at the time while I was in Bible school. I wasn't a full-time minister yet. And I was really dedicated to this because lust, Derek, is demonic. This is the demons that are coming to me, trying to take me to hell. So was it easy?
Bitch, you suck my motherfucking
but when you live for God hard, it's easy.
Yeah.
And when
it
you
is
live
easy.
for
Yeah,
God easy, then it's hard. It's one of those things. So I'm a soldier. I'm not going to betray my Lord and Savior.
Suck my motherfucking dick.
Fasting was something that quenched that lust. And so,
I mean,
I'm talking about strict water fast, which I still practice today. I do a lot of intermediate fasting. As a matter of fact, I'm sipping on coffee and tea, and I'm not going to eat my first meal until around maybe 7 o'clock today. So, it was a lifestyle. It was a holiness lifestyle. But I hope that answers the question. I mean, plenty of opportunities.
Of course.
Each
person's different, and their struggle with this is different. I just figured I'd ask, what made you want to dedicate? But it was a sacrifice that you had. You wanted to be like a biblical character. You wanted to take it to that next level. And it's kind of funny because you and me feel when I read the Bible,
bitch, you suck my dick, bitch.
From Genesis, when I was in high school, is when I actually read the entire thing from beginning to end. I was struggling with pot. I was smoking pot every day, and finally I was like, I need Jesus to help me stop. So I'm reading the Bible, and I felt like I was there. So in a sense, it made, like, you're this omniscient reader looking back at it, and I'm part of the main character. So now I am a main character in this story, and you think you also, Jesus says, you'll do greater things than me. Oh, well, that's me, you know? I know what you're talking about, and you were taking it there. So, you're on fire, you travel the United States, you're preaching to get this college growing. You went 4 years to college. I feel like a lot was unloaded, even though we don't know the chronology of all of these events. You may not even remember all of the chronology exactly. But what happened? Pivot, is there something that starts to take place? Do you start to... Is there doubts that happen? Is there anything that's going on? Or does it get better before it gets to a point where you end up starting to transition?
I'm glad you brought it up, because when I was teaching in Bible college, sometimes when you read the Bible throughout, for years, you want to read
that goddamn whore.
So I got into philosophy and I got into science.
Suck my motherfucking dick.
And Bertrand Russell was one of those that I absolutely admired. Even though he's an agnostic, a lot of people mistake him as an atheist. He was actually an agnostic, but he's been attributed to atheistic literature. Bertrand Russell and Christopher Hitchens. Those two I would listen to religiously to bolster the apologetic, because we have to have some sort of defense when it comes to the atheist,
bitch,
right?
You suck
and I don't want to pull faith as a cop-out for reason. I want to be able to have a fair man-to-man
bitch, you
dialogue.
Suck my dick,
so
bitch.
I would listen to Bertrand Russell, read his literature, Christopher Hitchens, and I always thought, my goodness, you know what? If I was not born and raised in this, I probably would be a skeptic. I probably would be an atheist. I probably would be an agnostic. And this was about maybe, 2 years after I graduated Bible college, and then I attended seminary with the Assemblies of God. And so, there's levels to this. There's levels to when you do that, right? So once I started reaching that level, and then when you're teaching this, as we know, the more you teach it, the more insight you have. You kind of start teaching yourself. You see different angles. You see the fine details of this. So Bertrand Russell was one of those that I would read, and I just would remember closing his books thinking, my goodness, if God is going to send this man to hell, God has to at least commend him for his intellectual challenges. I was impressed with Christopher Hitchens. And, Alistair McGrath, who he debated, stated the same thing. Many Christians at least admired him on a human level, on an intellectual level. So he was just one of those that made an impression on me. And so the Bible college students, when I was teaching apologetics in Bible college, I would use Christopher Hitchens. I said, what would you guys say in response to this? And I was tired, Derek, of using faith as a cop-out for reason. In philosophy, it's called fideism.
Bitch, you suck my motherfucking dick.
Tertullian was one of the leading voices of the doctrine of the Trinity. He had stated that, look, in order to believe in God, you're going to have to abandon reason. So many times, in early morning prayer, 5 o'clock in the morning, getting up, interceding, speaking in tongues, praying, I literally have to block out my reason.
Oh, who said that motherfucking shit?
My cognitive faculties don't reason. Tertullian was one of the leading voices of the doctrine of the Trinity. He had stated that, look, in order to believe in God, you're going to have to abandon reason. So many times,
you go to hell.
Early morning prayer, 5 o'clock in the morning, getting up, interceding, speaking in tongues, praying, I would literally
fucking dick
block
sucker.
out my reason, block out my cognitive
dick
to
sucker.
hold on to this faith.
Would you please fucking dick sucker?
After a while, Derek, it starts getting very, very tiring, especially when you talk to other religions, like you said, the Mormons. You talk to Muslims, and here they are using the exact same special pleading, the exact same faith card. And I thought to myself, I'm tired of this.
You suck
so
my motherfucking
was that
dick.
One. And then I started an Instagram page called Theology Discussions. And I was gaining, some followers. I was making some noise. And there were some scholars that I was talking to. one of them was the doctrine of tithing. That was really the one that really got me. I said, you know what? This doctrine of tithing is so unscriptural, so unethical.
Bitch, you suck my motherfucking
that kind of planted
dick.
the seed for me to have that courage to finally stand up against some of the pastors and some of the elders and the mentors in my life. Just using the scripture alone.
Yeah.
So that
bitch, you suck my
Before we get into tithing, because it sounds like we're all like, here's what's happened, right? We're trying to climb up to the apocalypse here, to the end. And it feels like we're literally about to go just plummet into non-belief here, and I think things are going to happen pretty quickly. So let's pause for 1 second.
Throw not long into a stomach, you son of a bitch.
Did you stay within holiness, Pentecostal, or did you kind of move around, or did you flirt with other theologies, or you were just like, I'm just sticking with this, and you checked out some of the other theological kind of positions, but weren't persuaded because you were already indoctrinated in your own? Where were you at in that?
I studied other versions of Christianity. When I went to the Assemblies of God Theological Seminary, they were Trinitarian.
Dick.
I came from a oneness background.
Right.
So, I was, very, open-minded. I was always open-minded, but I still held to the apostolic oneness because that was my family, that was my home, that was what I was positioned in, that was my paycheck.
Yeah.
But after a while, I'm not going to lie to myself. And I'm not going to, violate my own personal integrity. It gets tiring after a while.
Right.
So that's pretty much what happened. So eventually, I just
man, this is
like
bullshit.
I said, I just studied other philosophies. I studied epistemology. I studied science. I wanted to hear what the critical scholars have to say. I wanted to hear what the opposers have to say. So that was pretty much the process of it. But it wasn't until Don K. Preston and his ministry was the number one man that had the intellectual courage to stand up to Bertrand Russell and answer Bertrand Russell's critique on the
stupid goddamn motherfucker.
Okay, give us the background of that. Give us the back. The viewer doesn't know this. Maybe some are from Full Predators. In fact, I imagine Full Predators are watching you right now because I put this in the Facebook group. Predator's Perspectives. Send me a check after this. I'm just kidding. So, Tristan, tell us...
You stupid bitch motherfucker.
Okay, you love Bertrand Russell, like you said. What is the dilemma with Christianity, and what did Bertrand Russell say that makes this so significant to you?
The existence of evil was one of them. My father...
Move, fucking slut.
On pastoral staff. He had backslid with my mother.
Goddamn motherfucker.
Come back. But while he was backslidden, he worked for the coroner's office with the sheriff's department, and he did body
goddamn
so my father shared so many stories.
Goddamn
I
fucking
even went on ride-alongs with him. Anything from homicide, suicide, car accidents, you name it. I have seen evil in right here in our own societies. Not just thinking about it and talking about it. I've actually seen this. Dead
you
children.
Stupid motherfucker.
And so when you see the existence of evil, and it's right in front of your face, it's not just a philosophical topic. So Bertrand Russell and his critiques on theism, something that really stuck with me, and his critique on the second coming. So this was something that was really challenging me for about a year or two. Christ said that he was going to come in his generation. Some of you standing here will not taste of death till you see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Here he is using the scripture in his book, Why He is No Longer a Christian.
Dick.
And I read that book thoroughly. So, and I didn't have an answer. But it wasn't until when I had this Instagram page, what was called Theology Discussions, that somebody reached out to me and said, hey, I'd like to appear and have a little discussion on this. And it just sounds so bizarre, right? Like you're trying to get Jesus already returned. And I was very cordial with them.
King Sullivan the fuck out of you.
The Antichrist. What about the rapture?
You stupid goddamn motherfucker.
Right?
Yeah.
So then this man
stupid fucker
introduced me to Don Preston. And
it wasn't long until I
caught the power of his teachings. You
suck my motherfucking bitch.
We know what we're talking about.
Yes. Okay, let's lay out a little framework here, because viewers need to go, what the hell? They're excited about something and we don't even know what's going on. Okay, the problem of evil, in a nutshell, the reason the second coming is to come in, it's no more death, no more sorrow, no more pain, like literal death. Like we aren't going to have to suffer anymore during the That is really been the kind of consensus view of Christianity for thousands of years now is that one day all the troubles, saying goodbye to your loved ones, what's the point of life, right?
Dick.
And all this bad will be made up by God. He will fix all that's been broken, right? Simply as that, literally, not in some weird way which words say it happened, but nothing really occurs. Okay, so like that's where we ended up going. Like when you are defending your faith, you almost will lie, even if you don't realize you're lying, or you will delusionally go to conclusions at all cost, even at the cost of the meaning of words. But we're going to get to that to make this point. Bertrand Russell solved the problem of evil. We all see problems in the world, suffering, animals that exist just to eat another animals. Other animals exist just so that the food of other animals. Worms that exist just for human eyeballs, as I've heard Stephen Fry say. Like, there are weird things about this world that you go, if there's a loving, omniscient God, why the hell would he make that? Okay? Then we find excuses about free will and why evil enters and all this stuff, right? We have all these funny ways of trying to reconcile reality. Bertrand Russell's saying, look, Christianity fails because this has not been reconciled. Then this guy, Don K. Preston, comes in. We believe, me and Tristan believe Jesus cannot be wrong because of those experiences, our upbringing, our indoctrination. He cannot be wrong. Scripture is true. Let all men be liars. The flower fades and the grass withers, but the word of our Lord will stand forever. Hallelujah. This is where we are, right? Hamarashima Baba, right? Dude, you can speak in tongues, by the way. Don't hide your superpowers. People need to hear this stuff. And so we hear this guy, so well spoken. Don, and not only that, he's such a nice dude. Like, he's so kind. Get up there and say, ladies and gentlemen, Jesus didn't fail. We just got it wrong. We misunderstood what Jesus meant and what he said, and he did a very clever thing.
Damn it.
And that is finding places where it seems metaphorical or allegorical,
goddamn motherfucker,
describing Yahweh flying on the clouds. But he's not literally flying. It's just symbolic of a nation conquering another nation. And so it doesn't literally mean this. It's just a general idea of a war that happens between two nations. Though the words say, and the earth cracked asunder, and the mountains melt with wax, and the stars did not give their light, and things like that. All these Christians for 2,000 years have been interpreting all of those literal phenomena wrong.
Bitch, you suck
death
my dick, bitch.
Doesn't mean death. It's spiritual death. And we started to look in the garden, right? This is another problem, right? The Garden of Eden, God says, the day you eat, you will die. Can God lie, Tristan?
You suck
Not with our
dick.
worldview, right? Not with our perspective of Genesis and how we interpreted it. Right. So he must not have meant that same day, and he must not have meant death the way that we... So we find ways to reconcile this material. Now, back to you. I just needed to lay out the groundwork that Don Preston really got us. And we were like, I thought he was crazy, and then clicked the next video, and then the next video, and I started going, oh my God, I've never heard anything like this.
You suck my motherfucking dick.
Exact same thing. I've listened to every single morning musing series on the resurrection of 1 Corinthians 15. Taking notes. I mean, just like I would in seminary.
Well, it's time to start dicking up your motherfucking poems.
I'm like, I can't wait. Every time you would have another morning musing series that would drop. Like this guy right here. And I would introduce him to my pastors. And I would say, what would you have to say to this sincere man of God? And let me tell you, he's from Ardmore, Oklahoma. My pastors were from Oklahoma, so they have that same cultural accent, that same background, and it really touched home, And so even to this day, I admire Don. I admire his courage to debate, and that was another one too, was that he was willing to debate. And that hit home to me, because I always thought, how come these pastors aren't debating other pastors or having live discussions? How come they're not using social media the way that they can to make a better impact in the kingdom of God, right? So his willingness to debate, he's very well spoken, and he was, made some great arguments connecting the dots, audience relevance, time statements. I mean, my goodness gracious. As a matter of fact, when I had brought up some of the arguments to my pastor, he literally said, well, if that's the case, then Christianity ended in 70 AD. And all of a sudden, he saw the conclusiveness of the full preterist paradigm. And I said, oh my goodness gracious. Okay, so what's happening here? So, when I was, a full preterist, I converted my mother over to full preterism. And she saw the audience relevance. She saw the time statements, metaphoric language, right? But it wasn't until the resurrection. It wasn't until I thought, okay, so then how did the saints experience this change to immortality? How did they experience this meeting with Christ in the air? And so when I was messaging Don on his YouTube comments, I wasn't getting many answers. I would hear the IO preterists make their arguments to say that it was conclusive, it was finalized in 70 AD. And so we all know that when you touch on something on YouTube, you have a suggestion video, right? And then all of a sudden, your videos were popping up. IO videos were popping up with DaCosta. And so it was it was just, wow, it was a process. And
okay. Our audience, just look, you and me are talking inside language. We know the game. So right. IO, they don't even know what that is. Israel only. So there are factions of ideas in full preterism.
Oh, digger!
There's debate among full preterists, what full preterists are right about this or that. There's so much going on here. So, first things first, what Christians are expecting, the final resurrection, is this idea that real resurrection, actual people's bodies will be raised from the dead. This is an idea that the church teaches, that universally there will be a resurrection where the dead, those who are not Christians, will be finally condemned to the second death, and they will be done and gone for eternity. Whether you believe in annihilationism, you might even be a universalist. Sometimes they think that it's reconciliation, where they finally come to. But then there's the resurrection of the saints. So you get the sheep and the goats, these kind of ideas in the final end of judgment, where the real world, a new heavens and new earth, literal, death, literal, sickness, tears, suffering, literal experiences. Tristan is going to want to tie these together here for us to understand. This is inside ball game
Come on, you
language.
Dick sucker. Will you
is
please move,
expected
you
by the
fucking
Christian
dick
church
sucker?
today. What happened, and I want you to correct me or add anything to this, Tristan, to make sure our audience understands, because we're so deep in the weeds here.
Motherfucking dick sucker.
What happens is, we started seeing Jesus say things like, some of you standing here will not die, before that finality of things happens, where the angels of God come with the Son of Man, and he judges. And there's like this end of all things idea that we have understood. The final resurrection, the final judgment, all of that. There are time statements indicative that this is supposed to happen extremely soon from the time of the speaking of Christ we see in the Gospels. Paul gives hints of this, that he thinks he will be alive and remain when this happens. He thinks he's going to be one of them. So we start realizing this when we never realized this as Christians, because no one emphasized it. No church teacher, pastor ever said, Jesus back there believed the end was going to happen back there, not 2,000 years today. Like, we were teaching that Jesus is going to happen any day now. He's going to come on the clouds. It's going to end. Don Preston said, look at what Jesus says. Look at what Paul says, according to these books. They thought then. Bertrand Russell saw that and said, they thought then. You're still waiting? They thought then. Christianity fails. Don Preston says, no. They thought then, and it did happen then. But how it happened, what happened, and what that meant, that is something that the church has been wrong for thousands of years. And you can cherry pick a church father who says, implies something of an aspect.
Man,
like
you stupid son of a bitch.
A thing that might match your full preterist doctrine to come up with this way of systematizing your view. Tristan, I just needed to lay the groundwork. You have most Christianity is still waiting. These guys say, nope, already happened. So where's our hope? Right? Or modern Christian futurists, as they call them. Where's our hope? They're still waiting for the future. Full preterists say it's already passed, and you don't even realize it's already fulfilled. It's spiritual. All right, take over, man, because you're more actually active, involved in full preterist circles, but I needed to kind of lay something out, add anything, subtract anything, take us somewhere with this, but our audience does not understand.
Man, this is boring as fuck.
Some of this lingo that's going on.
Yeah, I completely understand, because full preterism is such a small circle within Christianity, right? You're looking at about less than 1%.
Now fuck up and take that goddamn mic.
So,
I'd say like 0.1.
0.1, right.
Yeah, like if that.
Yeah, and I'm glad we're talking about this, because the full preterists, they use literally, when you do a calculation, less than 1% of the entire Bible. There's 1,189 chapters in the Bible. The chapters that they use to apply after 70 AD, to apply to us today, is less than 1%. And so when I started seeing that conclusive arguments, I started hearing from the IO preterists. I started hearing from just skeptics from your channel. I'm hearing your testimony, your involvement with full preterism. And this was right before the COVID season. And I remember, Derek, my deconversion. I remember being in my car and I'm crying.
Shit.
I go, my goodness. I remember Dr. Miller was talking about this. When he started seeing this mythical view of the New Testament. And I just remember thinking, this entire time I have been wrong. And I don't think that I can side with this theology anymore. And so that's when I became a skeptic. I became somebody who sided now with the critical scholars.
What were some of the problems? What were some of the things leading up, if you can recall?
Yeah.
What were some of the things that made you start doubting?
Yeah, it was pretty much when I deconverted from full preterism. And it was the resurrection, this fallaciousness of it. And there was no responses from the full preterist camp, namely Don, on how the saints experienced this. And so from all the other facets of philosophers, Christian scholars, namely from your channel, that's pretty much what did it. I said, I can no longer use faith. I'm being honest. I can no longer use faith anymore. I am now a skeptic. And I cannot side with
bitch, you suck my motherfucking dick.
And the existence of evil, Derek. If I could really choose one, the existence of evil is still one of those that just
bitch, you suck my motherfucking dick.
And I'm supposed to believe that we are in the new heavens and the new earth. And another former full preterist, Sam Frost, was one of those who left full preterism, debated Don Preston, but wrote a book why he left full preterism, and I was reading his literature as well. So it wasn't until I saw that conclusive argument from the IO camp, the Israel-only camp, that everything was fulfilled in 70 AD, and that's it. Checkmate. I mean, there's nothing applied to us today. It was only for those in the first century. And so when I saw this, go ahead.
Take us into the resurrection thing a little bit for viewers.
Okay, so
what is the problem? This is insider. So listen, you're part of the Illuminati now. If you're watching this, just so you know, we'll send you your badge and your hood and the whole nine. And we already know your address. Don't worry, and your socials. So don't worry about giving it to us.
Tristan, bitch.
What is the problem with full preterist perspective pertaining to the resurrection? I mean, why is that a problem? Why would that cause you to fracture, to break away from the faith? I don't understand.
Well, because it was Don who had stated, and mind us, Max King, who was the one who founded this full preterist movement, at least one of the voices of this, who mentored Don, he became a universalist. And yet Don was arguing for the covenant body resurrection, that it wasn't literally, like you said, Derek, physical bodies coming up out of the graves. It's not literally a meeting with Christ in the air together with the dead. It's some sort of spiritual event, so in their own words, in their own literature. If I could go ahead and bring it up.
Yeah, bring it up.
If you can, anybody can get a copy of this.
Suck my dick.
Look at page 153, pages 160 through 165. Where the leading voice of full preterism is
stupid motherfucker.
How the living saints experience the resurrection.
Stupid, you stupid fucking bitch.
We all know him as the one who made the Left Behind series. He's trying to replace
I'm fixing to dick you up. I'm fixing to stick my dick in your butt and twist it till my dick comes out of your fucking mouth.
What are we substituting this with? What's the mental whole image that we should be substituting being caught up together with the dead, that mostly all Christianity believes, and I believe my whole life. And so when I was pressing Don with these questions, which is one of the reasons why I sponsored the debate with Richard Carrier. It took me about 2 years to finally get this answer from him, and he knew me from before. I started debating full preterists on a smaller platform. All Things Eschatology is Brian Simmons, who I feel and failing. He noticed me in the comment section,
you stupid bitch.
And so he goes, well, why don't you come on and hop on? And I assumed that Israel-only paradigm, their weapons against the full preterist paradigm.
That's something that the audience is not going to know what that is yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, maybe 2 people out of 500. I don't know. You know what I mean? But go ahead.
Yeah. So I started, having these small debates with the full preterists, those that were willing to debate, right? And so the more I was teaching with them, the more assuredness, I'm thinking, my goodness, okay, so this resurrection, this rapture, what kind of event
Come on, you son of a bitch.
And Don had stated, I want to say, in this debate with a man by the name of Tester, that he stated, look, if there was a physical rapture, if it was a physical resurrection in 70 AD, then Christianity ended in 70 AD. Then all those that were Christ at his coming, then comes the end. So it was kind of like Don's
move, you whore.
If he admits a physical rapture, if he admits a physical resurrection, then that's it. Christianity is done away with. Christianity ended in 70 AD if you are consistent with that full preterist paradigm of eschatology. So I was pressing Don and other voices of full preterism on this resurrection. And there was
I'm getting in your business. I'm getting in your motherfucking business.
His debate with Mark Smith, which was
I'm fixing to stick my dick in your whore butt.
He compared it to Elisha's servant tapping into the unseen realm.
Oh,
he said, the unseen realm. The resurrection happened, but it was in the unseen realm. And he compared it to Elisha's servant in 2 Kings chapter 6, when Elisha's servant tapped into the unseen realm and saw the chariot army surrounding them. So I'm thinking, okay, so you mean to tell me that
kiss my dick
all throughout the world,
kiss my dick, kiss my dick,
feel goosebumps? Did they shake? What in the world took place that was experiential?
I fucked it.
Now I am stupid immortality in the truth of the night. Hey, now I have met Christ in the air. How did those hundreds of miles away from the Jerusalem temple experience this change to immortality? Which is a very basic, fundamental question. You don't have to be a Bible scholar to process this and to understand this.
Okay, so just so people see this picture, all your life, you're waiting for Christ. The problem of evil is forefront in terms of the reality you see. Your dad is working with the local cops or people who are picking up dead bodies. You are seeing death firsthand as the son is on ride-alongs. So you're seeing bodies. You're seeing real problems. You're in California where there's probably some crime around where you're at. You see, there's no way that
maybe I'm fixing it here. You're right.
New heaven and earth.
God,
the way that full preterists describe it. Christians are still hoping and waiting, but there's a dilemma. There's a dilemma because now you have to say Christ is delayed. Or words don't mean words even if you're a futurist. Because now you got to go, well, day means 1,000 years. So a day doesn't mean a day anymore. It means whatever the hell God wants it to mean, which is a cop-out in 2 Peter. Or you go with this idea that it did happen, but these words don't mean what they mean. And so when they don't mean what they mean, that real death isn't death, oh no, it's the Elijah unseen realm death. It's the unseen realm resurrection. By the way, Tristan, I don't know if you knew this, I won the lottery 3 days ago and won $1 billion, bro. In the unseen realm. And you, prove me wrong, bro. Prove that I have it, Tristan. Anyone in the world, prove that I did not win the lottery 3 days ago in the unseen realm. Give me any falsification to prove that I'm wrong. You can't. Good luck. Well, that's a great way to prove your faith. Yeah. And this is the problem that you and I are having. We want the facts. We want the truth. So now you have either Jesus,
you stupid motherfucking bitch,
or he already came and nothing happened other than the slaughtering of his own chosen people in 70 AD by a foreign, non-Jewish military, Rome, and they cannibalized themselves. And they almost this is the sad part, because Christians jump to Scripture, and they'll find prophecies, unto us a child is born, unto us a son is, those are positive, but then they go to Deuteronomy and find this, in your last days, you will eat the flesh of your sons and daughters. And it's what? And then they go to 70 AD, which, by the way, this is probably reflecting Babylon and what happened during the Babylonian captivity and the destruction. But full preterists jump to 70 AD because this destruction of Jerusalem happens again, and they go, God was prophesying that his own people would eat their own children. Bro, what does that tell you about God? At what point do you go, is he not going to step in and do something, or what? So you and me are struggling here.
Yeah.
Flopping like a fish on dry land trying to figure out the world.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm sorry.
No. By all means.
Move, you fucking whore.
The more I was challenging the full preterist paradigm, the more assuredness I was getting that, my goodness, that this skeptic worldview, the critical scholars have been correct this entire time. Bertrand Russell has been correct this entire time, I believe. The atheists like Christopher Hitchens and other critical scholars. I mean, my goodness, now it all makes sense. The moment I have stopped using faith as a cop-out for a reason, as a blanket to cover up something that is just so obvious. And so that was it. I'm still very passionate for Bible theology, for philosophy, for these types of dialogues. And it was your channel as well, Derek. All the critical scholars that you've hosted, very instrumental in my deconversion.
Wow.
It's ministered to me. And so I'm just so very grateful to be on, to be a part of Myth Vision. I truly believe that you're going to reach every continent of the world if you haven't already. And so it just amazes me where we're at in the 21st century.
God
and I'm excited what the future holds. I'm more appreciative of my life.
One thing to stick my dick. What? God damn.
I was going to ask you, can you go into your experience now? We had experiences that were good, we had some bad. I mean, every human does. Let's not paint everything must be bad if it's Christian. This happens often when we deconvert, is we get the chip on our shoulder, we get angry at the faith we once held, that kind of stuff, and it's natural. That's natural too. But where you're at today, can you tell us what life is like? Is your experience no longer having to carry the baggage of faith, worrying about a Father in heaven, what you do right or wrong, these kinds of things? People act like that means you can go and live in any sin. Why not just go murder? Why don't you just go to dude, because it's not practical and it makes no sense to me, and that's not what I want to do. But tell us what life is like for you now that you left, and go into any details you want.
Yeah, I believe I'm still the same person. I'm not going out stealing people's belongings, murdering people. Life is great. I'm an educator. I cherish the future generation. I still want to be a good person with ethics. I'm still very passionate for this Bible theology business. And so, life is pretty much, that's not really much different. I'm not preaching in churches anymore. I'm not going out telling people about, the gospel and bringing them into heaven. But, I pretty much still have that same evangelistic mindset that I still want the truth. So I do respect people's beliefs and their civil liberties. I'm not out here to offend anybody, but I still would like to tell people what I believe is true, what other critical scholars believe is true, because as human beings, we value the truth. We want to know what the unbiased, pure truth is, even if it offends us, even if it hurts us.
My good God damn.
My experiences in Christianity, I don't have any regrets. I'm definitely not bitter at God, shaking my fist with this impure motive to destroy people's faith. Definitely not my motive. I'm just somebody who's a good sport, and I like these topics of religion and philosophy and history, and all the topics that you have on your channel. I'm very much interested in this. So life is, pretty much the same. I'm grateful. And if there is an afterlife, if there is, I hope that I go there in a good place. I hope that all my friends and families, I hope they all go there. I'm not wishing any harm upon nobody. But I still am very passionate on these topics, and so I enjoy them very, very much. And so, it was an honor to have sponsored the debate with Richard Carrier and Don Preston. That was an opportunity for me, because that's how much I cherish this, that I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is, that I'm willing to pay for this. I look at a boxing event, UFC event. Like, I want to see these two guys go at it. That's how I look at it. And it was great. I enjoyed the debate very much.
Good God damn.
I finally got to get Don to answer this question about how he experienced the resurrection. And this is where we got, and I have to say, Derek, the dancing in the streets.
Okay, so let's
dig into this fucking...
I'm going to get it tattooed on my head, and I'll post it in Predator's Perspectives.
Okay, can I give a little context here, just to throw... Okay, so we've been talking about the problem of evil and solving how we the Bible with Jesus coming back, fixing all things, making all things new, destroying the enemy, and getting rid of evil, and good remains, right? Well, full preterist in a nutshell, and there are so many different kinds. I was going to bring up Ed Stevens' point about going behind the mountains, the mountains, and that's where the rapture happens, and like all sorts of interesting little nutshell, like little details inside of full preterist circles. But the main debate that Tristan is actually trying to say is full preterists capitalize on the destruction of the temple. What made this a believable thing wasn't that he said Jesus came back and it was just a time statement. It was also able to anchor the concept of the Roman-Jewish war with Josephus historically to the gospel narratives describing an event that was going to happen, and Josephus documents the Jews do get destroyed. And Jesus gives indications in the gospel like, don't weep for me, weep for your children and your children's children. Like indicators that he knows something's going to happen. I think it's written ex eventu. Conservatives want to argue this is really prophecy. Either way you slice it, it wasn't out of the question that a Jew could say they think the temple's going to be destroyed. Jesus ben Ananias and Josephus, if this isn't completely fictional, describe it. Whoa. And some scholars even think Mark is using that when he puts it in the mouth of Jesus. Here's the context. 780 Roman-Jewish war with the Jews in the temple is the climax and final judgment and resurrection, because the judgment and resurrection are going to happen at the same time. Okay, we see tangible, I'm trying to paint the problem here, Tristan, tangible, historical, million-plus people, if the numbers are correct, cannibalizing and dying inside the Roman-Jewish war in the temple. Jewish people, God's chosen people, which gets retranslated and reinterpreted, if you will, reinterpreted into the Christian is the real people of God and not the nation of Israel. That's the judgment, the final judgment, according to full preterists. But the resurrection happens for the saints and believers. How? We have real tangible death and actual reason to say, damn, I could see why someone would say that's a judgment, because in the ancient world, any catastrophe, natural or man-made, was usually a sign that the gods were battling or the gods were involved somehow, and it's judgment.
Yeah, you need that motherfucking poem.
Where is the resurrection in a tangible form in any way, shape, or form that is going to prove this happened historically? So it seems off balanced. And Tristan is saying, what did the saints, at the moment that happened and the judgment takes place, the moment the resurrection takes place, what happened? And Don, he's dancing around this, you're saying, and you come up with this idea of dancing in the streets. But then you're saying, correct me and then get into the weeds here, Don Preston, the guy that persuaded you and I to become full preterists, will say, ladies and gentlemen, they rejoiced for their salvation, but they were saddened by the annihilation of the brothers and sisters being killed in the Roman Jewish war. So they're sad and happy at the same time. And all this, you're like trying to get full preterists to answer this problem.
Yes, and as we can see, this is the answer, that while potentially their own friends and family were in the city gates of Jerusalem for 5 months, it took to besiege Jerusalem, during this Holocaust event, is what it would appear to be, that the saints all throughout the world, in Corinth, in Ephesus, in Galatia, all throughout the nations, they all started dancing in the streets. And Don had stated that they were dancing in the houses, and that he was real sure that they were dancing. And I'm over here thinking, my goodness, did he just become Pentecostal? Roderick Edwards, I just had him on my podcast. He thought the same thing. Is Don promoting that the Christian saints were dancing like Pentecostals? And so when I first heard this, Derek, I was laughing. I was rolling on the floor. I mean, this was hilarious. So you mean to tell me that just get out the rapture imagery that Tim LaHaye has put in the Left Behind series, replace it with Christians all throughout the world, saddened, that their friends and their family are in the city gates, but they're not dancing over their suffering. They're dancing because they were vindicated. A societal vindication is what Don has stated. And they just started dancing. I don't know what kind of dancing they were doing. Maybe whatever's in their culture they're dancing. But they're just dancing, knowing that there's women and children, innocent women and children, who are not persecuting the church.
Right.
And they were dancing in the streets.
That's an important point, though. Doesn't he try to say that they were vindicated for their persecutors, both Roman and Jewish? But I think mainly he leans into the Jewish, which leads to all sorts of questions about, where that can go in terms of anti-Semitism. But at the end of the day, these Jews that are being slaughtered in the temple, this Holocaust, they were somehow part of the problem of persecuting, which we know there's no way all of the people that are dying in this temple are involved in persecuting Christians. But it's accusing them of guilt.
From my goddamn ass and shit.
You guys screwed up. Probably for a handful of people, if you take this historical, a handful of elite Jewish people having Jesus crucified. So all of these million-plus people are now being slaughtered, and they're saddened that their sister, their mother, or their brother, or their sibling, or daughter, or son are being annihilated in the temple, but rejoicing because there's vindication, because some of the persecutors are being slaughtered in the temple. How do you reconcile this, Tristan?
Especially when there's no history. I mean, number one, there's no history that Christ returned. Josephus never stated this. There's no church father that said Christ returned in 70 AD. You brought this up, Derek, in the debate with Richard earlier. If we could find just one historical document that stated Christ's return. So that's a weakness in the full preterist paradigm. Then the second one is, where's there any history of Christians all throughout the world dancing in the houses, dancing in the streets, and also dancing in the mountains of Judea, which Jesus told them to flee to? And so this is absolutely absurd. You need to tell me that it's read 1 Corinthians 15 to change to immortality in the twinkling of an eye, that the mental image when they read those texts was we were going to be dancing in the streets. That when they read the meeting of Christ in the air with the dead, that they thought when they read those propositions that we're going to be dancing in the streets. That is not the mental image that nobody has ever read. So Don is the very first Christian scholar, very first Christian debater to associate the resurrection that changed immortality and the meeting with Christ with this dancing in the streets idea. You'll never find this in any commentary. You'll never find this in any church father, any theologian, nobody. He is the very first man in history, in church Christian human history, to affirm this. And I think that this should raise red flags within the preterist community, in my humble opinion. And it was well worth every single penny. This means so much to me. This Pfizer business means so much to me. And I just refuse to, accept this idea. But this is what Don has to hang his hat on. He cannot retract this. And as you can see, he's still claiming this and holding firm to it.
Based on your engagements with full preterist engagement, I say plural because there's so many you have, what do they mean by change to immortality? What do they mean by that? Because it's, from my understanding from the scholarship, critical scholarship, there is a real implication of immortality, that term immortality, when you look, especially in the zeitgeist of the first century, to other mystery cults, that they will live forever. There is an aspect in which their bodies will transform, or in some way they will be deified. There's like a deification to immortalization that happens ubiquitous. So what do full preterists do? How do they define the change to immortality? What does that even mean?
Yeah, and this is where I bring up epistemology, where what happened in their cognition? How did they process this information that they knew that they were changed to immortality? Those living hundreds of miles away. And they're very unclear on this. This is why I brought up neuroscience in the past, even from a Christian worldview, Derek. How did they experience this spiritual experience? How did they process this information that then they knew that they were changed to immortality? And many have criticized the full premise that say, well, if they were immortal, what about sin? Did they still have their sin nature that wrestled with the flesh and the spirit in Galatians 5? Since they're perfected. And this is, if I could just bring this up, Don had a debate with Chris Dick.
Man, this is boring as fuck.
You grew up hearing about Jesus. Maybe in a church, maybe from your grandmother, maybe just from the culture around you. And the version you got was safe, careful, designed to make you feel warm, maybe a little guilty, but mostly comfortable. That version exists for a reason. And today, we're going to talk about what they cut out to build it. Because there are 7 things Jesus said, direct quotes, red letters, stuff you can go look up right now, that are so strange, so uncomfortable, so genuinely bizarre, that the church has spent almost 2,000 years doing damage control on them. And not the kind of damage control where they explain the context and let you decide. The kind where they change the meaning, invent stories, and when none of that works, they just don't talk about it. And one of them, number 6, the damage control got so extreme that they fabricated a physical structure in ancient Jerusalem, an actual gate that archaeologists have confirmed was never there, made up a building to neutralize a single sentence. There's a guy who understood what was happening in these texts earlier than almost anyone. A 23-year-old in Amsterdam, 1656. His name was Baruch Spinoza. We'll come back to him. But what happened to him for doing exactly what you're about to do, just reading these things honestly, that story is going to hit different after you've heard all 7. So the first one. And this is probably the one that hits hardest if you had any kind of religious background growing up. There's this scene in Luke chapter 14 where Jesus has this massive crowd following him. And these aren't like devoted followers who knew what they were signing up for. These are regular people, families. You know, somebody's got a kid on their hip who's been asleep for a mile. There's some guy's elderly mother shuffling along trying to keep up. There's definitely someone there who didn't even want to come, but got dragged along. Just a regular day. Nothing dramatic happening. And Jesus stops, turns around, looks at all these people, and says, verse 26, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple. Hate your mother, hate your father, hate your children, hate yourself." That's not a suggestion in the text, and that's framed as the minimum, the entry price. And he's saying this to families, people who brought their kids. Now the 5th commandment, which is literally carved in stone according to the story, says, "Honor thy father and mother." That's one of the big 10, the foundation of the whole system. And here's Jesus, the guy who specifically said he came to fulfill the law, not abolish it, standing there telling people to do the exact opposite of one of those foundational rules. And if you had a church background, you know what happens when this verse comes up. You've seen the routine. Whoever was teaching, a pastor, Bible study leader, whoever, would do this thing where they go, well, if we look at the original Greek, the word for hate here is misio, And it doesn't really mean hate the way we think of it. It's a Semitic idiom. It just means to love less. So Jesus is simply saying, put him first. And then they move on real quick before anyone sat with it too long. And look, there is something to that. In Genesis 29, Leah is described as hated. And what it probably means is that Jacob preferred Rachel. So the idiom exists in the Hebrew tradition. That's a real thing. I'm not going to pretend it's not. But what they never did, at least not anywhere I heard it, was put that softened greeting back into the world it was spoken in. They hand you love less, like it's this manageable modern concept. Like Jesus is saying, hey, well, keep your priorities straight, which is something you'd hear at a leadership seminar. But that is not what it meant to someone standing in that crowd. Because in the first century, your family wasn't what family is now. Your family was your everything, and not in a sentimental way. Your family was your bank account, your legal standing, your health care, your safety, your retirement, all of it. There was nothing else. No government programs, no safety nets, no systems of any kind. Your plan was the only structure between you and complete destitution. If you walked away from that, you were done. Nobody to take you in when you got sick. Nobody to defend you if someone came after you. Nobody to bury you when you died. And actually, the burial thing, hold on to that. Because the next quote connects directly to it. And it goes somewhere you're not expecting. But the question that never got asked out loud, not where I could hear it anyway, is why? Or why would anyone demand something this extreme? What kind of movement makes you destroy your family bonds as a prerequisite? And the answer the institution doesn't want on the table is that the historical Jesus was not building what anyone today would recognize as a church. He was running an apocalyptic movement. He believed the world was ending. Not in some vague spiritual sense, not eventually, imminently, in his generation. The kingdom of God was about to crash into the earth, and when that's the timeline, you don't plan for next year. You don't take care of your aging parents, because there is no next year. But the modern church can't sell that. What they sell is family retreats and marriage conferences and parenting workshops. And the